everyone and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're a returning viewer. I'm Maisie and this is Maisie with a Z, and today we're going to be talking about summer YA contemporary books. It is currently late July. You know that mood where it's just kind of hot and you don't have a lot of brain power and you just kind of want to read a simple summer romance? That's what these vibes are going to be. So yeah, these include some of my favorite YA contemporary books of all time, which I've read a lot of YA contemporary books. Probably not as many as I've read fantasy, but I've read a lot. So these are some of my favorites of all time. There's some others that just didn't fit with the genre of this video. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so the first book on this list is When Dimple Met Rishi by Sandhya Menon. Sandhya Menon's honestly one of my favorite YA contemporary authors. She's amazing. Every romance she writes is compelling, and I just love her. So When Dimple Met Rishi is, in my opinion, the best one of her books, and it was the first one I read. It basically follows our main character, Dimple, who convinces her mother to let her go to a app development / programming summer program at Stanford. Her mother agrees, but when Dimple gets there, she finds out that there's this boy, Rishi, who's her parents and his parents were trying to arrange a relationship between them. Dimple had not known about this, but Rishi had known about this, but he didn't know Dimple didn't know, which, a little complicated, but they end up getting paired together on the project. And so they have to learn to work together, even though Dimple doesn't want to like him because she doesn't want to go along with what her parents want. Even though Dimple doesn't want to like him, she finds she can't help it, and they end up falling for each other, and it's so cute, and I love Dimple so much, and it's just it's so fun, and it's about Dimple fighting for her dreams to be able to work in app development, even though that goes against her parents' wishes in some ways. But she's also encouraging Rishi, whose parents want him to go into this app development, which is why they encourage him to go to the summer program. But she's encouraging him to follow his dreams, where he wants to be an artist, and it's just so good, and the dynamics are so fun, and it's just such a good semi-forced proximity, dislike to lovers, and it's just so good. I love it. And then next up is You Have a Match by Emma Lord. Emma Lord is another of my favorite contemporary YA authors, and this book was it wasn't her debut, but it's the first one I read. It basically follows this girl, Abby, who signs up for a DNA test in solidarity with her friend Leah, who's also doing it, because he was adopted, so he doesn't know anything about his family. And so she's not expecting to learn anything new about her, because she thinks she knows all about her family. But she ends up discovering she has this older sister who's also living in the same city as her that she had never known about. In a kind of reverse Parent Trap thing, the two sisters decide to meet up at this summer camp that the other sister goes to every summer to try and reconnect and figure out what happened. Meanwhile, once Abby gets there, she finds out it's the same summer camp that her friend Leo, who had done the DNA test and who she's had a crush on forever, goes to. It's so fun. It's got all the summer camp vibes, But it also deals a lot with Abby's newly discovered sister is a big social media influencer, and it deals a lot with that. And Abby's a photographer, and that's kind of her big interest. I love all the characters. I haven't read this since it came out in 2020, I think, but I need to reread it. I love it. It's just so fun seeing the two sisters try and reconnect and grow closer after they've never known about each other. And the friends to lovers thing between Abby and Leo is so cute. And the summer camp setting is so fun. I didn't like summer camp when I went. I was forced to go for 3 summers and I absolutely despised it. But it is so fun as a setting for this book. If you like friends to lovers, if you like sibling-focused stories, if you like summer camp settings, any of that, you will like this book. Next up is another Emma Lord book called When You Get the Chance, which, if you have a match is a reverse Parent Trap, then this is a gender-bent Mamma Mia, where Millie, the main character, has been raised by her single father and has never known who her mother is. But when she discovers her father's 2003 life journal, she ends up narrowing down the possible candidates for who her mother is to 3 people. And so she makes it her mission that summer to try and figure out which one of them is her mother by trying and tracking them down and interacting with them. and trying to learn more about them. And it's super fun. It is set in New York City, and Millie really, really wants to be a Broadway actress. Another side plot is she wants to go to this prestigious acting program that she has gotten into, but that her father won't let her go to. And so she's trying to convince him to let her do that. And also, meanwhile, in her quest to try and interact with potential mothers, one of them is like the supervisor at this internship. So she applies, and she's competing with Oliver, who is the stage manager at her school. And they've never liked each other very much. It's another kind of like forced proximity. They're having to interact with each other, but they're also kind of competing with each other. Oliver's mad because this internship is like what he wants to do in his life, whereas he doesn't know why Millie's doing it because she can't tell him, oh, I think this person is my mother. And it's just so fun, and they're traveling all over New York City, and it's got so many Broadway references. If you're a theater kid, then this is the book I would recommend to you. I was a theater kid and I adore it. It's just really fun, and like you have Matt, just tons of like family dynamics in addition to the romance plot. It's super summary, but whereas a lot of books on this list are more of like rural, small town summary, this is set in New York City. It's very urban, but it's still really fun and definitely recommend. The next book on this list is one of my very favorites, and it's A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow by Laura Taylor Namey. And this book, I adore it. It follows Lila, who is from Miami, and her grandmother has just died. And in addition to that, she had just gone through a breakup with her boyfriend of quite a while on prom night, and had had a sort of falling out with her best friend. So she's overall not having a good time. Her parents decide to send her to visit her aunt in England for the summer to kind of like reset, get away from a lot of the trauma and grief and loss and everything. She ends up meeting Orion, who's a boy who works at his family's tea shop, and they just have such a cute relationship, just gradually developing over the course of the summer. And the romance is super adorable, where they're just going all over England, and it's just so fun. But also there's a lot of discussion of grief, and Lana's having these issues where she's always wanted to take over her grandmother's bakery with her sister, where she'd be the baker and her sister would be in charge of the actual business part. Now being away from the bakery, she's like ends up helping make pastries for her aunt's business, but she's simultaneously like learning to try making new things, not just what her grandmother's taught her, and learning to mix flavors and experiment and try new things with baking that lead her to wonder if maybe just staying safe and working at her grandmother's bakery right after high school is really the best choice for her. So the romance is absolutely adorable in this, but it's also very much a story about her grief of losing her grandmother, and also her wondering about what she wants to do with her life going forward, and whether what she's been planning for is really going to be the most fulfilling path for her, I guess. And it's just super lovely. I definitely recommend. If you're going to read one book on this list, I would say read A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. Like, they're all good, but that one holds so much in my heart. And I can say in top YA contemporary books of all time, it's To All the Boys I Loved Before, and then it's A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. And I really can't recommend it enough. Anyway, next on this list is another American Girl in the UK book called Love and Other Great Expectations by Becky Dean. It follows our main character, Brid, who has been planning on playing soccer in college, and that's how she's planning on paying for it and getting into college and everything. And she suddenly gets an injury that prevents her from playing soccer ever again. And so when she hears about this competitive book-related scavenger hunt in the UK that one of her teachers is involved with that has a lot of prize money, then she chooses to go on that as a way of like getting money. So she goes to England, and she doesn't actually know that much about books. She ends up meeting this British boy. They're kind of traveling all over the English countryside doing these like book-related scavenger hunt proms. If you like British literature at all, but if you like books in general, honestly, then this is so fun. There's so many nods to Jane Austen and Dickens and Sherlock Holmes and everything, and it's just so fun. Like, that's the word for it. This is not a super deep story. Like, a lot of these books are exploring underlying things about grief or have significant character development. This is just fun. Like, it's not a bad story. The characters aren't horrible. It's just fun. It's a good vibe. If you remotely like classics, or if you just want to read a fun scavenger hunt game themed book, then this is the book for you. Next up is The Falling in Love Montage by Ciara Smith, I think it's pronounced, which follows our main character Saoirse, whose mother has early onset dementia, which is passed on genetically, so Saoirse knows it could happen to her. And so that's kind of led her to have a lot of cynicism around love and life and such. Anyway, at her end of term party, she meets this girl named Ruby, and they decide to spend the summer doing every single cheesy romance movie, cliche date, like the falling in love montage from every rom-com, and just fitting all those into one summer and planning on the relationship having an end date but still doing it. It's just so fun. Because of the concept of the book, it has so many fun little cliche tropey little dates, but it also has a lot of discussions around grief and illness and the fact that queer stories often don't get happy endings, and can these two characters decide to change that for themselves. And it's just beautiful and so fun and heartbreaking at the same time, and it's just watching them fall for each other even when they know they've decided this relationship is going to end come fall. I can't describe it, but it's a really good book. I don't really know what more to say. Like, this is a good book. I love it. It's great. If you're looking for rom-com references, if you're looking for just a really cute sapphic pairing, this has that, and also a lot of deeper discussions, and it's so good. And then next up is a significantly more lighthearted book, which is Instant Karma by Marissa Meyer. Now, Marissa Meyer is one of my favorite fantasy authors, where she wrote The Lunar Chronicles and Renegades and Heartless, and she also wrote Gilded, but I haven't read that yet. But this was her first contemporary book, and it's not full contemporary, like it has a little bit of a magic element, but it basically follows our main character Prue, which is short for Prudence, and she, for her final science project of the year, was assigned a partner with this guy who she hates, and so she ended up doing all the work. He didn't end up doing anything, and they ended up getting really poor grades on it because they obviously didn't work together, and also neither of their things truly fit the assignment guidelines, because he turned in the report, she turned in the model part of it. It's complicated. Basically, she ends up convincing the teacher to give them a new grade if she can convince her partner, Quint, to work together with her to create a project and actually collaborate this time by the end of the summer. And so she's determined to do that because she's never gotten below an A in her life and needs a good grade in this class. So she first off is trying to make Quint redo the project with her, and she ends up trying and getting an internship at his mother's marine rehabilitation center that he's working at to get closer to him, but also to try and learn more about what he was trying to do with the project, because he had talked a lot about the center in his report portion of it. Separately from that, this book does a lot with music, where her parents own a record shop, and she and all of her siblings are named after Beatles songs. But basically, at the beginning of the book, she was at a karaoke night and ended up hitting her head while someone was playing Instant Karma. And after that point, she finds that she can exact instant karma on people around her. Like, if she sees someone doing bad, she can think for something bad to happen in response, and like something will happen. Or if she sees someone doing good, then they'll be rewarded. And that's just, it's so fun. And she's just getting frustrated because even though she sees Quinn doing all these things that she thinks are bad, she can't ever make anything bad happen to him as a result, which ends up, of course, forcing her to learn that like he actually has good reasons for these things. But it's so fun. It's very lighthearted. Like, it talks about extinction and taking care of the climate and such, but it's overall a very lighthearted read, and the romance is super cute, enemies to lovers, and the magic just adds such like a fun element to it, and it's just so good watching these two being forced to work together to try and raise money, and having to begrudgingly admit that the other person has good ideas and has good qualities and gradually falling for each other. And it's just so cute. Every romance of hers is iconic, and this is no different. Next up is The Lucky List by Rachel Lippincott. And this follows Emily, whose mother had passed away 3 years previously due to cancer, and it's now Emily's summer before her senior year. And she ends up finding her mother's bucket list for the summer before her senior year, and she kind of sets out to complete it. And coming along for the ride with her is a girl named Blake, who she had used to know. Blake's father is like best friends with Emily's father, I think. I don't know, I haven't read this book in a year. They moved away 5 years ago and have just now moved back. And so Emily's kind of reconnecting with her, and they set out to accomplish this bucket list together. Emily's kind of dealing with a ton of change where she's kind of just destroyed her relationship with her boyfriend Matt, and her father's selling her childhood home where they'd always lived with her mother. And all these things are changing in her life. So she's kind of learning not to fear losing her connection to her mother as she's completing this list, because she's feeling closer and closer to her. And meanwhile, there's also the aspect of she is developing feelings for Blake, and her realizing her sexuality is a super big part of the book. And the romance is so cute. The bucket list trope slash, I don't really know what to call it, but that element is so fun, and it's just really nice seeing this character wrestle with like all the change she's facing in her life, and wondering if that's going to mean she's losing her connection to her mother that she had lost. But also, like, all of that is coupled with this really cute romance, and it's just so good. Like, if you like bucket lists, if you like small town romance, if you like kind of childhood friends to lovers, then this is for you. I love that book. Next up is Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walther, which is another book dealing with the relatively recent loss of a family member, but it follows Meredith, whose older sister had recently died, and this is kind of like their first family gathering since then. It takes place during the family's annual vacation to Martha's Vineyard, because they've had a family house there for years and years, and her favorite cousin is getting married, and so everything's kind of centered around that, but it's also centered around this. They every year play this family game of Assassin, which is they're super into, and there's all these strategies and teams, and it's so fun. Basically, Meredith's older sister Claire had always adored the game and been super into it, so even though Meredith's never been very good at it, she really wants to do well in order to honor her sister and connect with her. She ends up forming an alliance with the groomsmen, and that's kind of the romance. This just has such good family interactions. Like, if you like large family books and just family dynamic-centered books, then this has it. And the Assassin game has such chaos to the story. And it's set at Martha's Vineyard. It's more beachy, more oceany than some of the other books in here. Like, the entire family is still dealing with the death of Meredith's older sister, but it's not a sad book. That it's still lighthearted and fun. I mean, as the Assassin game would imply. It has depth, but the romance is still super fun. The Assassin game's fun. The family dynamics are amazing. And yeah, if any of that sounds appealing, you'll love this book. And then next up is Going by Coastal, which I received an ARC of when it came out last month, I believe. But this is a sliding door romance where a girl named Natalia has 24 hours notice to either go out to LA and take an internship with her mom's company for the summer, or stay in New York with her dad. And she's lived in New York with her dad, whereas her mom moved out once the two got divorced, and Natalia hasn't really had that much of a relationship with her. It's sliding doors romance, meaning it follows two parallel timelines. One of which is if Natalia stayed in New York, and the other is if she went to LA. It's done super well. The timelines aren't at all confusing, and the romances in both are absolutely adorable. In the New York version, she ends up getting together with this girl who she kept seeing around her neighborhood and had a little crush on, but had never actually spoken to. They end up getting together, and it's super music focused because the girl's parents do a lot of reporting on musicians and such, and the girl kind of wants to carry on that. Whereas the LA side, Natalia ends up getting together with the other intern at the company, who's this boy who wants to be a chef but had a very unstable upbringing, and so he has convinced himself that he should get a job with more stability, which is why he's taking the internship even though he doesn't like it very much, and even though he really wants to be in culinary school. And both of the romances are so cute, and I just love them so much. I had not previously thought I liked sliding door romance books at all. Like, I tried to read one previously and I DNF'd it, but I did end up really enjoying this. So I still recommend giving it a try, even if you don't think you'll like that setup, because the author does a really good job of making sure each timeline is clear, and I never really felt confused. I also talked about this in more detail in my June wrap-up a couple of videos ago, if you want to see that. And next up is Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch. I had really not realized how many dead parents were in this list until now, but I guess that's a thing. It follows Lena, whose mother had died of cancer. Her dying wish was for Lena to get to know her father, whom Lena had never met, because he lives in Italy and she's grown up in the US. Lena ends up going, kind of against her wishes. She ends up finding out that the person she thought was her father wasn't actually her father, which is a whole complicated thing. But it's set in Tuscany, outside of Florence, and she ends up meeting this Italian-American boy, like, he lives in Italy but he spends a lot of time in the US, named Ren. He, like, takes her around and shows her all the sights and everything, and they end up getting closer, and it's a really cute romance, but it's also, she's following her mother's journal and trying to learn more about her and reconnect with her about this, like, part of her life where she had spent a year abroad in Italy, which Lena had not known that much about, and trying to discover more of that. It's just really cute. Like, the gradual uncovering about, like, what happened with her father and all of that, and her mother's relationships, and just gradually uncovering her mother's past. That part is really fun, but the romance is also super cute. The setting's really fun. I've also read Love and Luck and Love and Olives. I would honestly not recommend either one, but this one I think is Jenna Evans Welch's best book, so I'd really recommend. I especially recommend it if you want a book set not in the US. I mean, we had a couple of UK books on here. Like, this book feels like going to Italy, you know? It has all of the kind of touristy vibes. It's just really cute, and if any of that sounded at all appealing, then I definitely recommend checking it out. And then next up is the only graphic novel on this list, which is Bloom. And this follows Ari, who works in his family's bakery but wants to move away with his band to, like, the big city. And in order to do that, he has to find a replacement for him. So when interviewing potential candidates, he ends up hiring Hector, and he ends up choosing Hector for his replacement, and they end up growing closer over the summer as Hector is being trained and learning, and it's this really great dynamic where Ari is super determined to escape this bakery, but Hector loves it so much, and them gradually growing closer, and there's this tension where Ari is planning on leaving and planning on going to the big city and such, which is kind of just like looming over their kind of developing relationship, and it's just really cute. The art's beautiful. It's a graphic novel, so it's a pretty quick read. It's a really cute love story. Yeah, if you like seaside towns, if you like bakery settings, if you like just really cute graphic novels, then this is for you. So yes, those are my top 12 YA contemporary books set in summer recommendations. I'm going to need to come up with a better way of summarizing that before I create the title of this video, but I have a couple days to do that. So yeah, these are honestly some of my favorite YA contemporary books of all time. They're all very summery and great reads if you're looking for something relatively quick in this last month of summer in the Northern Hemisphere, or in this last month of winter, I guess, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. They're all super fun and I think really perfect for summer, and I'd really recommend any of them, which is obviously why they're on this list. And yes, thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you later.